Hello everyone! Sorry for being late. There was some tech issues, as always. Um, this week we are starting. Just waiting to see, making sure chat is working as well. It should be. Hopefully you can all hear me fine. Yes, Twitch audio is good. Why isn't YouTube chat working? Please don't say that's broken as well. Why is the audio calling? We're getting loads of YouTube chat coming through and it's not coming through on the fucking audio is correctly. No, please no. Sounds metallic. Fuck me. I absolutely hate this stupid thing. Okay, YouTube chat's working now. It's my audio crap. Audio distortion. Fuck my life. Okay, we will be back. Okay. Are we back? Please don't say the sound is still bad. Is it? Oh, why? What? Mate, fuck you. This is so garbage. It's so bullshit when there's a guest waiting. And the audio is the audio just weird on Twitch or is it also on YouTube? I absolutely hate this so much. Mate, I only slept like 4 hours last night. Why is it doing this? Oh my god. I don't want shit audio the whole time. Right. Right. Let's see.
Yep, I can hear you.
Let's see. Right, chat. Is this better? It looks like everyone says it's good. What I did was, right, I restarted the computer twice because when I restarted it once, it was exactly the same. And then I restarted it for the second time, doing nothing different, and it's working. Amazing. Thank you so much for bearing with me, everyone. Not only is this awful that I have like loads of people watching and I'm already late, but I also have a guest waiting. So we are going to get on to talking to our amazing guest as soon as possible. So if guest is ready, then we will bring her in. I'm assuming you're ready. Yeah, let's go for it.
I'm ready.
Okay. So this is Sugar. Would you like
Hi.
to Oh yeah, say hello to everyone. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Sugar. I am an activist from Scotland. You might have seen me in the topless protest that happened on Saturday outside Scottish Parliament.
So yeah, this was for anyone who doesn't know what's going on in the UK. We are in a pretty bullshit situation. We just had a Supreme Court ruling which basically stripped us of lots of our legal rights. And now the Equality and Human Rights Commission is proposing a bathroom ban, like all kinds of horrible stuff. And a group of brave women from Scotland did a protest outside. Was it outside the Scottish Parliament? Because they've banned trans people, right?
So at the start of last week, obviously with the Supreme Court ruling, they decided to change the rules for their bathrooms, where everybody in Scottish Parliament, whether it was staff or visitors, had to use the bathroom of their biological sex. So this obviously puts a lot of queer politicians in a weird situation. It also puts any visitors, because it's a big tourist attraction, Scottish Parliament building. And there's only one toilet that is not single sex in Scottish Parliament. So
Yeah. So it's just a completely ridiculous situation, and
yeah,
it, obviously in reality it's impossible to police it. Uh, Lots of people aren't going to abide by it anyway. Complete nonsense, but it has the effect of blocking trans people out of democracy in Scotland. Because if you can't go to the toilet in your workplace, and if your workplace is like officially discriminating against you, then it's just not possible to like
no,
work
no,
and live there normally.
it's not a workable ruling at all.
Yeah.
Like it just you just can't. Any trans people will just be completely shut out from day-to-day life, especially if it's your workplace.
Yeah, exactly. Just completely crazy. So you and some others decided to do a protest, and we've got like some pretty iconic photos, especially like this one. You look pretty like this is like a feminist history book photo moment. It's pretty good. But so what like how did you
I wish I could say that smolder was intentional, by the way. It really wasn't. It was just the sun. It was so sunny on Saturday. It was so warm and so sunny that it definitely was just the sun in my eye.
well, yeah, well you're looking really good there, so it's worked out for sure. Squinting is definitely a good look. So how did you find a group of people willing to do this? Because this is quite a bold, brave thing to
Yeah.
do.
So I won't lie, it was very difficult. There were supposed to be more.
Hmm.
But obviously, like you said, it's a very, I wouldn't, from our perspective, it's not brave. It's just the thing that needed to be done, fighting the good fight. But finding obviously a group of women that were comfortable enough to obviously not just get topless, but get topless outside of Scottish Parliament. It's a big deal. Yeah, and it was difficult. It was mostly just grassroots and messaging other trans women that I knew in Scotland that were willing to be involved, and then obviously getting them to ask other people. Yeah, it was a very grassroots thing. It wasn't really done from any of the big activist groups in Scotland. So
Mm. Yeah, because I guess not only do you have the worry of being topless in public, full stop. I mean, that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but also, like you say, in front of Parliament, but also as a trans person, like you know that any photo of you ever is going to be
yeah,
like stared at by the creepiest, weirdest, grimmest people on earth, which is a reference to what is coming up later. But talking of the grimmest people on earth, we will be looking at the reaction of one of those. But like was all that kind of stuff going through your mind, worrying about that, or were you just feeling like you just have to do
um,
this and screw the
not
consequences?
not in the moment. In the moment, we were all just very much. It was such an adrenaline rush, to be honest. It was because it is such an intimidating thing to do. It was scary. Um,
Here's the
but
censored version.
yeah, there's a censored version. Yeah, it was scary, but at the time, we weren't really thinking like that. We were just everybody was briefed on the potential consequences because we all know that gender critical people will take anything that we say or do. And it could be the most mundane thing, it could be the most vanilla thing, and they will twist it and make it out to be a fetish. And yeah, so we're always under scrutiny from gender critical people. So yeah, we knew that this was a consequence and we knew that it could happen. But that wasn't like, unfortunately, it was just that is a consequence when you do want to make radical change, when the powers that be are putting pressure on you and trying to strip, just basic decency rights. You just have, like, we just felt we just had to do it.
Mm,
Consequences be damned. We actually thought we were going to get arrested, and we didn't get arrested, thankfully.
good.
Um, but again, that was just one of the consequences that we were aware of, but we just had felt it had to be done.
Yeah, I totally feel the energy of well, we just have to do it. Like when they're bringing in these, like threatening to bring in these bathroom bans and stuff. Like it's terrifying, and I'm sure you agree.
Yeah,
But also, like, what are you gonna do? Stop living your life? Stop going to work? Stop buying clothes in the shop? Like, no,
yeah,
you
exactly.
will just have to live your life, and just know that there's a chance that someone's just gonna try and ruin your life over it, and like, there's no other alternative. Um,
Yeah, and for us, it was very much that situation of, do we just sit by and watch this happen? Do you know what? It was the meme of the dog sitting in the chair with the house around him is
yeah,
on
yeah,
fire, and he's just saying, "This is fine." Like, that's how we felt at the moment. We can sit by and say, "This is fine," and then we don't realize what's been stripped from us till it's already too late. Or we can stand up and try and raise awareness for the general public that this is an issue. Trans protests happen every week just now in the UK.
Mm.
But we felt it was there needed to be something to just cut through and try and make it into the broader media, because so many people that I speak to in my day-to-day life and in work, they have no issue. Like they don't know about the issues that trans
Yeah,
people are facing
exactly.
right now. They're just it's not that they're ignorant, it's just they're not exposed to these things. And I think that was where we were coming from, is that we needed to do something radical, and something that would cut through the media and hopefully grab the general public's attention to make them understand why we're doing this, or to even get them talking about it and try and get, Joe Public engaged.
Yeah, well, it seems to have worked. So you've gone, like, there's some other things going on here. You all have a red arm and a flower and tape on your mouths. Do you want to explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so the Red Arm, I don't know if you saw back in March, there was an anti-fascist protest in France, and it was by the group Femin, and all of them had their red arm painted in a mark for anti-fascism. So we thought, in solidarity with the European feminists that stood in that march, that we would do the exact same thing, just to show that, it's about solidarity, it's about aligning feminism with trans rights, which both are interlinked inherently, but
Yeah.
unfortunately the media would like you to believe otherwise. Um, the white rose is to symbolize the first nail in the coffin for trans rights. Like, this is, if we don't do something now, this is the death of trans rights in the
Mm.
UK. And the tape over our mouth is to represent the Supreme Court ruling and the fact that they didn't take submissions from any trans groups. Despite there were two notable interventions, they just refused to listen to them. So we felt that our voices had been taken away from us in that situation. So yeah, the tape represents that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's it's weird because like the tape on the mouth thing has been like a meme from the right wing people for a while. Like Julie Bindel absolutely loves sticking duct tape on her mouth. There's got to be like
Oh yeah.
15 plus studio pictures of Julie Bindel with tape on her mouth. But in all of those cases, they're like on the front page of a magazine doing a photo shoot, writing their weekly column and stuff. And like you say, trans
Hmm.
people here, there was a ruling that stripped of us of our rights is a pun, took our rights away. Um, and yeah, like you say, we weren't involved in that at all. Like no trans people with the whole, every single trans person in the UK was excluded from being involved in a decision that
Hmm.
affects all of our lives. And so here, like the tape, this is what the right wing people have been trying, the image they've been trying to capture and failing all this time. Because when you see them on the front of a magazine with tape on their mouth, you're like, you just look like a knobhead, mate. Like pretentious twat. You have a platform. What you talking about? And then
Yeah,
when you
my
see,
favorite one of that is, there's I think it is actually Julie Bindel, and she's got the tape over her mouth, and I'm pretty sure it says freedom of speech on it. And like, you just, they can't even see the hypocrisy.
yeah, it just makes no sense. It's just
It makes
embarrassing.
no sense. Yeah.
But here, it's quite clear that you've had to do this like extreme action to even be considered by the media at all as like a participant in this discussion.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's a good striking image. Like all of the pictures from this pretty
Thank
good.
you.
Did you get like a photographer to come along or something? Or
No, I think that photo was actually, so that photo was taken by my wife,
nice.
and yeah, and I think the photo previously was taken by our friend Merlin, and yeah, they're a great photographer, and they did a great job.
Because I think part of like if anyone else is thinking of doing some kind of bold, non-violent resistance action, there's quite a lot of ingredients that come with it. Like one is finding people to do it who are ready to do it and who are going to turn up. And another is making sure it's documented properly. You can't rely on the media or members of the public to keep a record of it, and you need like good high quality pictures because like not to like go too hard on it, but this is quite an iconic look. It's quite an iconic photo. Everyone here is like looking pretty mega, and that kind of thing
Yeah.
is like what sticks with people in their minds when they think of like trans
The
rights
thing I love
protests.
about this photo is like the nice prominent rose just off to the right there. Just yeah, I think that It just captures it all perfectly. It's so
Yeah,
so good.
it's a really good photo. So nice work to the photographer. Um, so it's been this has this so this is a Pink News article. Pink News aren't like the biggest news organization in the UK, but they're always going to cover something like this. But some I've definitely seen this being referenced wider, like further afield than just Pink News. How have you dealt with the like uh the fame of it all? Like, how's the reaction been? Have you been?
Um,
How have you dealt with
it's
that?
yeah, it's been fine. Other than, well, so we kind of first knew it was going global when somebody else had sent me a link from a New Zealand article. And that was like, okay, so this is like totally broken containment. And then it was just constant messages on my socials, just being like, oh my God, I saw the protest. And it's been fine. The reception has been well, overwhelmingly positive, I would say, other than on the usual cesspit of Twitter, where it's just been a bit of a pile on with the gender critical folk.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're using that with like from every avenue, trying to call us fetishists, trying to say that obviously if we're legally men, then of course we didn't get arrested, and they, you know, the usual one where they're saying, I can't believe that they covered up, they censored these men's chests. uh, it's like it just, they can't see that clearly, even when the media portrays us that way. I mean, I would have preferred that the photos were uncensored to get the impact across,
Hmm.
but I mean, if anything, that just helps prove our point even more. The fact that the media was willing to censor everything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel compelled to censor in this or show these censored photos because of YouTube censorship rules. And like we had this thing with YouTube and Instagram and stuff like 10 years ago or whatever when trans people first started becoming a thing. I know there was one lady who posted a topless photo of herself every single day when she started HRT and was
Oh,
like,
to show the difference,
at
yeah.
what point will Instagram ban me? At what point does a man's nipple become a woman's nipple in the eyes of the Instagram algorithm? And like they did eventually, then suddenly deleted like the last 60 or something of her photos.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it definitely does point out the like all of the hypocrisy of um the reactions where they're trying to like I always think this is like people will say, oh, gender critical people think that trans women are men. Like they don't really think that. You can see what they really think from how they act, and they act
Hmm.
towards us like a subclass of women, like below that. They already treat women
Oh,
as inferior to
absolutely.
men, and they treat trans women as just an inferior version of women. And you can see that because
Yeah.
they're misogynistic towards us. They do things
Mhm.
like censor our nipples. They, you know, there's just they constantly drill in on our appearance, and they just go on and on about how unintelligent we are and unemotional we are and all of this kind of stuff. And then at the end they say, and you're a man, because they know
Yeah.
that is just the thing you say to trans women to offend them, basically.
But it's like they use it as like a nice little reminder to themselves. It's like, oh yeah, if I say this, then I can justify my misogyny.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll say you can't be misogynistic to you because you're a man, and then
Mhm.
you're a stupid whore who. Blah. It's like, yeah, okay, well, I think you're just being misogynistic and then just saying like scribs at the end or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Is that, did people say scribs in Scotland? Does this anyone
No.
say it anywhere in the world? It's like it was a thing that in the playground in the 90s when you would say something and then you would say scribs afterwards, which meant like it wasn't true or something,
Oh,
or like
is that like the 90s version of poggers?
maybe I don't know. I just remember people being like they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, you can have my crisps at lunch," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Really?"
scripts.
And then they're like, "Scripts," and I'm like, "Oh."
Oh, okay, no, I was thinking it was the other way. I think it was like in a good way, but then just like no, it's just totally as a joke.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. Anyway, um, I'm going to wrap off this section of this. Is there anything else that you would like to say about the organizing or the experience of protesting? Anything you could say to others who might be um,
Um, yeah,
wanting
of
to do the
course.
same?
I just want people to know that like when you see photos of protests online, even if it is radical protests like this, we're just people. We're just other trans people. Like you are also a person. If you want to get involved, you can do this. Like it's not I mean, yes, it's difficult, but there are ways to get involved on social media. There's plenty of local trans resistance groups that you can check to see when there are protests coming up. If you want to organize anything, like even if you have a little queer community that you want to organize something with, you can do that. Like it's not impossible. Yes, it's scary. Yes, there will be blowback, and yes, you will likely get a lot of hate from the other side. But at the end of the day, if you want to get involved and you want to try to make a difference, these are the things that you need to consider when getting involved. But you can do it. Like I said, we're just people, and we're just trying to make good trouble, as it were.
It's a good phrase. I hate this thing where I was watching some videos of someone who's invited me on their show last night, and they do this thing of like they're like, "Oh, we're not talking about trans activists here. We're talking about just ordinary trans people." It's like, well, who do
Mm-hmm.
you think trans activists are? Like, I'm not like Helen Joyce, where this is my full-time job, and like all these ridiculous billionaires pay for me to go and talk on the far right podcast and stuff. I'm literally just a person with a normal job and like
Yep.
friends and a family, and like it's the same for you and it's the same for everyone in this protest. Like a
Mm-hmm.
trans activist is everyone. We are all forced to be activists
Yeah.
for our rights because there are no big like huge organizations fighting for this, and
No.
like
And
someone's
that's
got to
one
fight
thing
for it.
exactly, someone has to do it. And that's the thing when you realize when you get involved with any kind of activism, is that a lot of it is very grassroots, it is very underground. There's no big organization telling us how to and when to and what to protest. It's just if you have a passion for something, and especially when it comes to things like our rights, if you feel that passionate about it, do it. Go and join your local grassroots like protest group and just see how you can get involved, because at the end of the day this does affect all of us. And if you want to do it, I can promise you you can do it. Like, we're just normal people, we all just went back to our normal jobs on Monday,
Yeah, and use the toilet at work
and we
because
use the
what
toilet at work.
but also on the backlash thing, the gender criticals are going to be horrific to trans people anyway. They're going to be as horrible to you as they possibly can anyway, and they're trying to take away your rights. The reason they do such a reaction when we stand up to them is because they just want to like steamroll over us. They don't want
Hmm.
to see us as humans. It's important they dehumanize us, and it's important that they don't hear any pushback because they feel
They
bad
don't
about
want
it.
to
And
see
it,
us being vulnerable in the
yeah,
news and showing that we too are people. They don't want to see an article cutting through that says trans women are, like, affirming us as well, calling us by what we are, it's just women, and then having the decency to censor us as well. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see that, the general public en masse usually agrees with us and does side with trans people, because it breaks their bubble. It breaks the way that they think they have control over social media.
absolutely. That's a great line to end this segment on. But we are going to keep you on if you would like to stay for a second part to this segment. So, as we've just covered, Sugar, who is our guest, was at this protest outside the Scottish Parliament, and it's gone like global viral basically. And we were discussing about the reactions from the gender criticals, and obviously they are horrible. They are the most vile, horrible people you'll ever interact with, but they are also stupid. And there was one reaction that I saw shortly after this from our friend Graham Linehan, which, like, genuinely, it was so ridiculous. I don't know if you had this same experience, Sugar, but it was so like clownishly stupid that I
Hmm.
thought, because I just saw a screenshot on Blue Sky, I thought, I just instantly thought, this is fake. Someone has faked this, and I am angry that someone has faked something this stupid, because we don't need to fake stupid things from the gender criticals. And I literally, I can't remember who it was, but I clicked on the thing and I went on his Twitter and I searched for it, and I was like, I just need to check, but I'm going to come and tell her to fucking delete this straight away. And then I found it, and it was real. And I was like, what? So let's have a look. Let's just see. So this is Graham Linehan discussing the photo. He's posted the uncensored version. I have cropped it off, but I assure you it's just the same photo we've just looking at. And he says, "Oh my god, uncensored pic of the boob protest. Eh, is it just me, Or is there an actual woman in here pretending to be a trans woman? Because men are easy to spot.
It's honestly like he's trying to write as a parody of himself. It's just,
Like, absolutely incredible. So it's like the whole point of your protest was saying, we're just the same as any other women. And,
mhm.
this everything that they tell you about us isn't true. We're just ordinary people having a, like, stand out. And also, I guess, raising the point that if we're forced into men's changing rooms, then there's just going to be a naked woman in the men's changing rooms with
Yeah,
your husband or
absolutely.
whatever. So, and then he's like, his whole thing is no,
It's just collapsed. He's
yeah,
just broken his own argument with one tweet. It's the stupidest thing.
it's just what's so incredible about it to me is there's always this like argument of, are they stupid or are they evil or is it both? And it's really hard to tell a lot of the time because they do pretend to be stupid and they do
Hmm.
say evil things in a stupid way, and it's hard to know. But I've always like kind of believed that a lot of them know that they can't always tell who is trans and cis. Like Dr. Stock has written about it in her book or whatever, saying, "Oh
Hmm.
well, some cis women will just be victims of transphobic transvestigation, and that's just a price we'll pay."
Yeah, that I never understood that. You can't call yourself a feminist if you are willing to throw us even any percentage of women under the bus.
Mm.
You can't call yourself a feminist if you're saying that that is a necessary sacrifice to stop women being assaulted or worse, then that you're not a feminist. That is not feminism.
Yeah,
And you can't, and then at that point you can't even use that to thinly disguise hate because it is so obviously just hate at that point.
and even if it was something like, oh, if we could sacrifice 1% of women on Earth to like cure all cancer or something, you'd be like, okay, there's a moral argument here, whether we can justify.
Hmm.
But this is, we are sacrificing the safety of some percentage of women in the UK in order to stop trans women using the toilet at work, which doesn't actually benefit anyone in any way at
No.
all. Completely nonsense. But yeah, I've always thought, like, are they stupid? Are they evil? Dr. Stock, probably evil, but also stupid. But here, it's not just that he said something stupid like, oh, we can always tell who's trans or whatever, when he obviously can't. But he's just like genuine, just tweeted out, like, I'm an idiot. My whole argument is wrong. And he's not even realized it. Like,
No.
he's not even realized how stupid this comment is. Like, genuinely incredible. Um, yeah, what was your reaction when you first saw that? Like, I was genuinely speechless. I like
But
drafted out a tweet, like, and then deleted it and drafted another one. I was just like, I don't know what to write.
so I came across this one on Twitter. Somebody had tagged me in it. I didn't see it on Blue Sky. But I had thought that it was him making a joke. Like I didn't think he was being serious. I thought I was gonna click on the comments and his next comment was gonna be Scribs. You know, that's what I thought. I thought that's what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a
Yeah.
not joke. Um, but no, I looked in the comments and it's just him engaging with his followers in the exact same way and trying to reinforce that I'm some sort of cisgender plant, like that big trans is now like planting cis women into protests in order to, I don't know, undermine the agenda, whatever they're
But
thinking. Like it's
it shows that it does, like, having normal ordinary trans women there does undermine their agenda because they were so upset about
yeah.
it that they've had to cisvestigate you, which is incredible. I think being cisvestigated is the dream, really, isn't it?
I mean, I think I'm the first. Am I the first person to be investigated by Graham Linehan? I
Oh,
mean,
by
it's kind of an honor, but like it's also just they have no basis in argument now. When they say we can always tell, they can't. They really can't. Like, and as soon as you get to a point where they think that you pass, you're immediately not trans anymore. Your
yeah,
voice no longer counts in the trans argument because they can't justify you being trans and not looking like the stereotype they have in their head.
yeah, exactly. Or yeah, the stereotype that they desperately try and create all the
Yeah.
time by like a classic thing, particularly on Twitter, is you'll post a selfie or something. I mean, I'm not posting selfies on Twitter anymore, but before it totally Nazi'd out, post a selfie on Twitter and then they'll post some cartoon of like some extreme stereotype with like it's always got hairy legs and
Hmm.
like as if
And the hairy
yeah
chest is the other one. And then it's like, as if, most, I mean, fair play if you are comfortable with your body hair and you own it, amazing. But if you are a trans woman and you don't like your body hair, of course you're going to shave it. So, like, why
yeah
they would even use,
same with cis women. Like cis
yeah,
women have hairy
exactly.
legs too, like that is a natural
Yeah.
part of being a human. And most or lots of women in the UK shave it, trans and cis, but all of them do. It's just such a clownish stereotype. And my response to them is always like, yeah, looks just like me, mate. Like, well done.
Yeah,
I
you're so spot on. The AI you use really captured everything.
yeah, it's just incredibly cringe. But yeah, there was also a Pink News article about this. I haven't seen this article yet. Is it worth reading? It sounded like you thought it might
Um,
be.
yeah, it's quite funny. They
Okay.
tend they start off with the whole transvestigating thing.
Um, by the way, I feel like I don't know if you're a connoisseur of transvestigation. I consider myself to be because I fucking love transvestigation. So for anyone who doesn't know, transvestigation is where people get a cis person and they believe that that person is trans and they'll do something like zoom in on like when it's women they often zoom in on their neck and they'll be like there's an Adam's apple, like not realizing that all women have like
Hmm.
a neck, and they will like zoom in on a fold in their trousers or something and be like there's a penis.
Well, this is one of the things with the cisvestigating thing. One of
Yeah.
the comments I saw on Twitter was that I it was my clavicles. Like they were saying that that's cisgender women's clavicles
Your q
and
what's your q
may
angle? That's what I need to know.
oh, I'm just waiting for the drawings to come up where there's green
Yeah,
triangles
yeah.
everywhere.
But the EGI people, so there's the transvestigation is like a basic pastime of all gender criticals and transphobe. They've all done it at least once. They've all transvestigated. Like they were all transvestigating what's Daniel Radcliffe's girlfriend, his wife, when he posted a photo with her and they were like, "Oh, no
Hmm.
wonder he supports trans rights. She's a man." And it's like she's currently pregnant with their child. So if she is, then good for her and I want to know about that technology. But um the EGI people, they're the next level, the elite gender inverts. They believe that everyone is trans. Like Barack Obama, Donald Trump, like the Queen or King or whatever. They think every famous person is trans, but they also think all the famous trans people are cis. So there is actually EGI, and they're not called. They don't think we're cis. They think we're double inverts because they call trans people inverts, and then they think famous trans
Right,
people are
okay.
double inverts. So it'd be like they'll be like Laverne Cox is a woman
It's an invert. Yeah,
who
so a trans woman is what
yeah
they're
yeah who
basically saying.
transitioned
Yeah,
into a man and then back in order to something.
some
Um,
agenda.
yeah, take over the world as trans people do. So right, let's go through this article. Protesters staged the demonstration outside the Scottish Parliament on Saturday to voice opposition to the UK Supreme Court ruling that the Equality Act's definition of women excluded trans women. Like, shout out to Pink News here. They have posted some bullshit before. In fact, maybe we'll come onto that in a minute, where they're just like, most of the British news articles are like, the ruling just said that women are only biological women, or it just
Hmm.
counts for biological sex, without digging into that and being like, well, what is biological sex? The court didn't define it. Why are trans women not biological women? Because we are biological people. What part of our biology is actually
It's
important?
not biological.
It's, yeah, exactly. Nonsense. Anyway, they said rather than saying only counted biological women, they have at least in this sentence said excludes trans women. Demonstrators claimed that Scottish ministers had rolled over after Holyrood's MSPs agreed that access to single-sex facilities in a building would be based on biological sex. This is where they need to call it out. Irish comedy writer Linehan took to Twitter to accuse one of the protesters of being cisgender. Failing to clarify.
I think that's pretty bold still calling him a comedy writer. I think that's far too generous.
To be fair, though, we are all now, thousands of us together, laughing at something he wrote. So, touche to. Probably the funniest thing he's done in ages. Failing to clarify how he came to the conclusion, he shared an uncensored screenshot of the protest, asking his followers, "Is it just me, or is there an actual woman here pretending to be trans?" He didn't identify which protest he was talking about. I think that he thinks it was several, because in some of his other comments, that seemed to be what he implied. And there was even some posting like pre-transition photos of some of you, and then someone else replying to that, and then him replying underneath, still confused.
Yep. Yeah, so a lot of I've been quite open about my transition online, and obviously very, very quickly they had photos of pre-transition me, and they were posting them in the comments, but he still couldn't get it. He still wasn't making that connection. And there were people still agreeing with him as well underneath, saying that I'm absolutely a plant.
It's because obviously you faked. It's a deep fake.
Fake.
It'd be something to do. If you're a cis woman and you're wondering what activism you can do, maybe you could deep fake your own pre-transition photos, and then
and have a presence online for at least 5 years before getting involved in any activism, and then
it's all about the long game. You just need to waste 10, 15 years of your life pretending to be trans just so you can dupe Graham Linehan in a single tweet. The act of determining a person's gender identity through analysis of their body or mannerisms in photographic or video evidence is referred to as transvestigating. The conspiracy theory often uses sexist preconceptions of gender identity to accuse individuals, typically celebrities or influencers, so you're a celebrity now, of not being feminine or masculine enough. It is also based on the notion that being trans and non-binary is inherently bad and can result in further abuse to those subjected to it. Celebrities that have been transvestigated include Taylor Swift, Michelle Obama, Paul McCartney, Bridget Macron, Melania Trump, Joya Amj, sorry, I don't know that person, and the world's shortest woman. Oh, the world's shortest woman, okay. Also, it includes Shrek. I did a video on this recently. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see it, but that's fantastic.
There was someone claiming that Shrek had been feminized. And they've got all the like triangles and stuff, you know, like where they put the skull over Shrek's skull as if like a human female skull over Shrek. Anyway, trans people are not usually cisvestigated because the tactic is typically used by those who hold anti-trans beliefs. Branded self-owned by trans influencer. Prominent. Oh, I'm in here. Oh, okay.
There you are.
Prominent trans influencer. Cringe. Should say internet dickhead. Katie Montgomery called Linehan's attempt at an investigation self-owned, saying she had to log into Twitter to check with my own eyes. That's true. I genuinely did have to check that the post was real.
Unfortunately, it was real.
Why did I kind of fortunately? Because it's kind of hilarious. Oh, just on the thing about them all posting, like, I think it's grim that they do this posting people's pre-transition photos. If you've been open about it and you're comfortable with that, then I guess it's good that you're fine with it. I know for a lot of people it's uncomfortable. But what I think is so fucking weird is they have it on standby. They have it like, pow, I know this random like woman from Scotland's entire medical history, and I'm going to post a little like collage of it all.
Yeah, the fact that they probably have folders on their phone of specific prominent trans people with probably dozens of photos. Anytime that a photo has been posted online, they probably have it in a folder just good to go. Like you said, just to try and get a dig in or an own. It blows my mind that they go to these lengths.
I replied to one of them because they posted like a bunch of information about you and pictures and stuff, and I was like, this is just fucking demented. Like, imagine this being your life. Like, you're such a fucking freak. Like, unbelievable levels of like weirdness here. And
if this is what you're doing with your day all day, is just harassing strangers online, that's not a life. Just go outside.
And they replied instantly, like 15 seconds, with saying like a bunch of information about me. Like, I was just like, I think I don't need to reply to this. You have made my argument for me.
They've still never found my dead name. I'll at least I can say that.
They've got like 3 different
a mild
ones.
plus. Oh, do they? Oh,
They've
yeah.
got 3 different ones for me. And it's quite funny seeing them use them in different places. So,
Hmm.
uh, Sugar, that's you. One of the protesters at the event, who Linehan was likely referring to, said, "If the Supreme Court can see these women legally as men, then they'll have zero issue with them getting their tops off." The Supreme Court's ruling has raised concerns over the implications in UK law. Interim guidance posted by the EHRC called for the ban of trans people from all gender toilets. While not legally enforceable, it has been used to justify anti-trans policies. Sugar told PinkNews it was not just a setback of humanitarian rights, but an act of erasure, adding, "It sends a truly saddening message that trans people's fears, dignity, and lives do not matter in the eyes of the Supreme Court. Trans voices were ignored in that decision." That's a very good statement. Um,
Thank you.
I think that it's good that this became like a global thing that people are knowing about. Like you say, there
Hmm.
was even articles in New Zealand and stuff. Um, and if you are the kind of person who can withstand the extra scrutiny and abuse, when you get something like this from one of the gender criticals, this is me like saying it to people in the audience who are a bit worried. Look at like this is Graham Linehan is one of their most like horrible people, and he
Oh
has a
yeah,
huge
he's like
platform.
of the worst for them.
Yeah, and he has a huge platform, and he's gone directly for these women who have done this protest, and he has like done that fucking Simpsons meme of like Grandpa Simpson's trousers falling down, or like Such a Bob standing on a rake or whatever. Like he has absolutely humiliated himself, and now that it's to the point where him attempting to attack someone and failing so spectacularly is its own news story. This is now giving the event even more news coverage. It's giving
Exactly.
it's widening the amount of people who see about it. And
I have to give him a round of applause
yeah,
because he's just keeping it in the news cycle for another day. Like, thank you, Linehan, for being such an idiot.
so yeah, like how do you do you I guess have you got negative and positive feelings from this, or is it all negative, or is it all positive? How do you
Um,
react to this?
I Unfortunately, I do have quite a thick skin when it comes to this stuff online. I'm really good actually at separating what happens online from real life because these people are not involved in my day-to-day life. These people are not people that I see and speak to. So I'm really good at not letting that get to me.
Good.
But that's happened with time though, which is terrible. I shouldn't have to say that I'm used to that, you know.
Mm,
Um, but this is something that can happen, obviously, and if you're involved in protest, you will get these people coming, and it could be anything. It could be, like I said, it could be the most mundane thing, and they will just zone straight in on it, and they will be instant with it. Um, you just have to try and ignore these people because they're not involved in your life. They're not involved in my life. Everything that they say online is literally just a little vacuum chamber.
mm.
It's not they're not coming up to me and harassing me every day in life. If they were, it'd be a very different story. But these people don't have the spine or the backbone.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, I think ignoring them is the best reaction. But so,
Hmm.
before, when some of the like bigger people like Graham Linehan or J.K. Rowling has gone for me a couple of times, and the first time that someone a huge platform goes for you, it's terrifying. Like someone will type like, "Did you see that someone or others talking about you?" And you're like, "Oh god!" And you get like an adrenaline rush and you feel sick. And then
Hmm.
when that's happened a couple of times, and you like, right, finally, I'm ready to approach it. You go up and you read what they said, and you're like, "Oh, it's stupid." Like, oh,
Yeah, it's
oh,
silly. It's absolute nonsense. It has
and
no bearing on my actual life.
and once it's happened a few times, you're like, you hear it again. Like the last time J.K. Rowling went for me, someone messaged me, and I was like, "Well, I don't have the energy to look now, but I'm not stressed by that. I think it's
Hmm.
we'll see. We'll see what she said. It turns out that she said something absolutely ridiculously stupid, and I think it just benefited my point. So, um, yeah, hopefully you feel the same from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? But like I said, I originally got tagged in this post, and that was how I first saw it. And when I came onto it and started looking at the comments, it was just backhanded affirmation
Yeah,
that these people just have zero clue. And again, like you said, everything that they are saying is just so stupid. It doesn't have any bearing in real life. And these people can sit and cry online and to themselves because that's all they're doing. It's just to each other. People do not take these people seriously.
yeah. well, unfortunately, other than the UK government,
Yeah,
the only people on earth who take gender critical seriously are the Nazis in charge of the
the
country.
Nazis in
And
charge.
um, but yeah, I think one last thing that I want to just cover before I let you escape from this tech issue laden nightmare of an interview is
We got there.
we did after about half an hour we got there, but um, I think it is important to point out how some trans women do pass, and any attempt to um ban them from anything is like very trivially immoral and unjustifiable, because they are obviously, if someone passes, then they are going to experience misogyny and sexism like any other person who is read as a
Hmm.
woman. That's just like an inevitable logical conclusion of that. But passing isn't well, first of all, it's not binary, and it's subjective, and it's also not like the only thing. I don't know how you experienced this in your transition, but I definitely started getting misogyny before I started like
Yeah.
passing. Like that comes
So
first.
yeah, so that was the first thing I noticed when I started transition. Even when, like, I mean, I still don't pass every day. Nobody does.
Hmm.
Even
Including
cis
cis
people
women.
don't
Yeah.
pass. Yeah, exactly. But that was the thing. It was like as soon as I presented myself to the world as a woman, immediately people, especially men, saw that as okay, well, you want to be seen as a woman, so I'm going to treat you how I treat every other woman. And unfortunately, that was misogyny.
Yeah. And um so I think this idea that sometimes you see these reasonable centrist cis people will be like, okay, well maybe passing trans people should get rights, but the non-passing ones shouldn't. Like, well, firstly, we can't actually draw a line here. Who's to decide who passes? Are you the like passing judge or whatever? Clearly, the trans person themselves knows when they start getting treated in a certain way, but also passing isn't what's required. When someone sees someone and they clock them as a trans woman, regardless of how well they're passing, like, or they might pass 99 times out of 100 and they get clocked by someone,
Hmm.
or they might never pass and they get clocked. They are still being clocked as a trans woman. Very
Yep.
rarely they're going to look at you and be like, that's a cis man. And then you're like, actually, I'm a trans woman or whatever. Like, because very early on in transition, there are signals that people pick up on, like presentation and all kinds of things. And they do not treat trans women as cis men. They treat trans women
No.
as a lesser form of women. Um, and then also, like you mentioned, tied into that, and I just wanted to like quickly cover this. So this is Joe Malm from Good Law Project, and he is a cis man, and he is talking about his cis wife. So this is a woman who was born a girl and has not transitioned, and he's saying that she had breast cancer and had a double mastectomy, so she had both of her breasts removed, basically. And he says, this morning, for the first time ever, she was challenged in the changing rooms at the swimming pool. Her breasts were not what make a woman, but breasts or not, she's entitled to dignity and protections from vigilantes. I'm grateful for the responses. This is happening to tens of thousands of women across the country. So, like, sometimes cis people do not pass. And we often use passing as like this kind of like yes or no, whether you've achieved something or not. It's
Hmm.
literally, it's in the eye of the beholder. And if someone decides you look like a man or you don't look like a cis woman, it doesn't matter. It doesn't just happen to trans
No.
people. And, this cis woman is getting confronted over this. And like I think it's always important when we're presenting this, haha, Graham Linehan's stupid because he couldn't tell this trans woman, he thought this trans woman was a cis woman. It's worth noting that they can't they can't ever reliably tell, and it's going to affect cis women, it's going to affect trans
Yeah,
women, it affects
exactly.
non-passing trans women, it affects everyone. The whole thing is stupid. So I don't want to give this
Yeah.
impression that we're like in you know in one
Yeah,
position to like lecture or
we're not trying
whatever.
to say that passing is everything,
Yeah,
because it's not. And people will treat you the way they're going to treat you by a snap judgment.
yeah,
And if they see you as a trans woman, they're going to treat you with misogyny. And if like you said, it does affect cis women as well. And as soon as we start policing people's looks, it just always ends up with what boils down to misogyny. Because as soon as you start policing people on their looks, who's going to start, who makes the judgment call of where the line is for when a person looks female or looks male? Like, you can't have that in day-to-day life. It just doesn't work because they're not inherently binary. They're just not.
Yeah, it's just not how the world works.
No.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming on and giving your side of the story, and
Of
also for
course.
laughing at Graham Linehan with me. Is there anything you'd like to shout out? Do you have any like socials that you want people to
Um,
follow on, or are you?
we have just set up a new decentralized, um, I don't know if that's flipped or if it's the right way around for you.
It's the right
It's
way for
called
me.
Tranny Riot. You can find us
Sounds
on
great.
Instagram. If you want to
See if
get
I can find
involved
it.
in protest, we will try and post as much as we can, UK wide. But obviously, we're looking for more people to get involved. So
Okay.
if you search for Tranny Riot Instagram,
Hasn't immediate. Oh, maybe it's gonna be. It's linked to your Twitter and stuff. Maybe I can
yeah,
just
you
go
can
to.
find it on my Twitter. If you go to my Twitter, it should be on there. Or if you do, yeah, / Tranny Riot.
That's a good name.
Thank you.
I don't have Instagram anymore. I don't know if it's gonna let me go on here. It is excellent. Well, check this out. If you're, is this nationwide or Scotland wide or?
I think we're just aiming to be completely decentralized.
Okay,
So we
wicked.
will post as much about trans activism as we can.
If you are
So if you want to
worldwide,
get involved, follow.
yeah, worldwide or on the International Space Station, get involved. And yeah, thank you very much. And
No,
hopefully we'll
thank you
talk
for
to you again in
having
the
me.
future. That's all right. Bye.
Bye.
Mega. Right, I'm gonna end this thingy. Excellent. Amazing. Thank you very much, everyone, for bearing with me while I had horrendous tech issues and got a bit stressed by it, because Sugar was very kindly being like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, it doesn't matter," and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" Like, first of all, we tried uh Discord and that wasn't working, and then we tried Zoom and then that wasn't working, and finally got Zoom working, and then OBS wasn't working, and then finally got OBS working, and then YouTube wasn't doing it properly. Stressful as shit. Anyway, we've got a few more things to cover, but I do appreciate everyone who stuck around, and hopefully the edited videos of that will be good. But yeah, how's chat doing? I just saw a super chat, so I'm just gonna have a look and see if we have any super chats to cover before we move on to the next part of the show, which will be the standard freeform garbage that you all love and have come to expect. Let's see, what have we got here? We do have some. Okay, I think we have some that I missed last time, so we will cover those too. So I think last week Sean said we got some maths from Sean, of course. I always appreciate the maths from Sean. Every finite simple non-abelian group has even order. This is equivalent to the Fate-Thompson theorem. It's very hard to prove, but easy to state. I think maybe we read that last time, but we also got, I've watched all the Prime Minister's questions of this government so far after the exchange between Keir and Demi. I guess maybe that was that Kemi? I get the Pride ban. Yes, absolutely. We got $10 from Domestic saying towards a goblin treat fund. Maybe the sixth. I guess this is for Poppy. Thank you very much. I just bought her these like fish lollies things, like sweets but fish flavored, and she really loves them. Yesty says, Katie, your work has been super helpful to me for years. I want at least to send you the super chat so you can get yourself a nice drink coffee. Thank you very much. I will do. I will get a drink on Saturday evening when I go out with my friends for her birthday, which will be great. Sean, another maths from Sean, very kind. Burnside's theorem, any group of order p to the a, q to the n, for distinct primes p and q and positive integers a and n must be solvable. You're going to have to explain that to me in DMs, Sean, sorry. Howard sent $10 and says, Cisvestigation. Yeah, everyone in chat, I hope you get Cisvestigated today. It's a good word. It's one of those words, like, imagine trying to explain this word to someone 100 years ago. But, yeah, good times. KO has sent £10. Thank you very much. Thanks to both Katie and Sugar. You are both beautiful, powerful women, a true inspiration. Thank you very much. And we got from Mux Alba, thanks for being here, Sugar. Yeah, I think it was great that she came on and dealt with all the tech issues and bullshit. So, the next thing that I want to talk about is... Let's have a look. I want to talk about this. So, Jane Claire Jones is a British gender critical woman who, Jane Claire Jones, at one point she was quite prominent in the gender critical movement. Around the time, I don't know when, probably just before 2020 or something, maybe 2019, she was one of their voices along with like Julie Bindel and Dr. Stock and the kind of people who are claiming to be feminists who also oppose trans rights. And she kind of fell off in the gender critical influence because she was one of the few people who like actively took issue with Posey Parker / Kelly J. Keane Minshall, the woman with 6 names who did the protest in Australia that had a load of Nazis turn up. And Posey Parker is loved by all the gender criticals, and Jane Claire Jones is like some academic. Like she is more of a feminist than most gender criticals, so they don't really care about her and don't support her at all. So she kind of disappeared, but she still writes as if she's an influential part of the movement. She's definitely got some kind of ego thing going on, but she is one of these people who writes these things that are so unself-aware that it's just incredible. A bit like when J.K. Rowling often posts things like, all of these financially backed protest movements with no real grassroots support. Like, how can they dare do something like this? It's like, mate, you're literally describing yourself. Anyway, we got this from Jane, and I just thought I just have to respond to this because it makes me want to scream. So she says, very dramatically, "We are exhausted." So this is about the gender critical movement in response to the Supreme Court ruling and what's been going on. You're exhausted, Jane. The gender criticals are exhausted. Like, imagine what it's like for us then, people who are actually affected by this. She says, "And everyone I know just wants this to be over so we can get back to getting on with the shit we want to be getting on with." Then fucking do it. You can, at any moment, you can just stop and walk away. None of this affects you at all. It's not your rights on the line. You're not the one they're threatening to ban from public spaces. You're not going to, be prevented from doing your job because you can't go to the toilet at work. If you stop talking about trans people, you would probably be less relevant even still than you are now. But people would forget. No one's going to treat you badly over it. Like, you're not like J.K. Rowling or Graham Linehan, who both could probably rehabilitate their reputations if they just stop posting about trans people, laid low for 6 months, and they come out with a new project. Like, all of you have nothing on the line here. I can't walk away from this because if I just give up on fighting for trans rights, then I just lose my rights. Then what? I can't have a job. I can't pay rent. I can't feed myself. Like, I can't buy clothes in the shop. I can't go to service stations. I can't go on long drives. Like, this directly affects me. If my healthcare gets banned, then I will just get very ill. Whereas if my healthcare gets banned or doesn't get banned, doesn't affect you at all. If they let me carry on going to the toilet in the UK, that doesn't affect you at all because trans women have been using the women's spaces with you your entire life. And it hasn't affected you up till this point, other than the fact you become like obsessed with us and have to post about us all the time. You can. If you are exhausted, just fucking stop. Give up. Go away. Your life won't be any different. Then she says, "But the response over the last 4 weeks has made it abundantly clear that the trans rights movement has no intention of taking no for an answer." No to what? No to us having rights? No to us having healthcare? No to us existing? Like, no, Of course, we're the ones saying no. Like, we're not going to stop. Of course not. I mean, I don't know what you think. Like, you managed to, well, not you personally, but the gender critical movement managed to orchestrate this situation where you got the Supreme Court, a whole room of only cis people, decided that trans people shouldn't have human rights anymore. And you thought, what? We'd all just be like, oh well, they won. Better all detransition and just create a new life. And what do you even think we're going to do? I just don't know where gender critical people think trans people are going to go if you take our rights away. We're just going to carry on existing, and maybe we'll go to prison for using the toilet at work. Like, unless you round us up and put us in camps, we are still going to be here, and we're obviously going to speak out. Like, I'm never going to stop saying that LGBT people should have equal rights. Like, in what world? It doesn't matter if the most extreme authoritarian government on earth ever comes down and like attempts to eradicate LGBT people again. It won't stop it being morally correct to support LGBT rights and trans people. It won't stop LGBT people from being born. It won't stop us from existing. It won't stop a history from it having existed. I just don't know what they're thinking. Anyway, she says, we have a group of people demanding that women hand over their legal existence, their rights, their language, their analysis, and their political movement. Yes, you stupid fuck. That is you. What are you talking about? This situation, the Supreme Court ruling, this whole like last few weeks of stuff that's been going on has been about trans people having rights that they up until that moment had taken away from them. Their legal existence. Up until that point, we were legally women in every aspect of like British public life. And now in that one aspect, we no longer are, but in all the rest we still are. Literally stripping away our legal resistance, literally taking away our rights. This is actual real rights, which make a real difference. If you face sexism at work now, you're less protected than you were before as a trans person, as a direct result of this ruling. It didn't affect you at all. If it had gone the other way and everything had stayed the same, it wouldn't have affected a single cis person in the entire country. It literally doesn't affect you at all. Their language. Yeah, you just tried to rip away trans people's ability to describe themselves accurately. And all this like, biological sex, biological female stuff that you guys keep enforcing on top of us when it's like scientifically inaccurate and false. Their analysis, I feel like this is a very Jane Clare Jones specific, like it's like my sword and my axe and my analysis. Like she thinks that she's very good at analysis, but is diabolically bad at it. And their political movement, I mean, that's what the gender critical movement exists to do, to crush trans people and the political movement that is trans rights. And we have another group of people saying no. Yeah, it's us saying no. You tried to take away our human rights, and we are saying no. We're not just gonna take that. We're not just going to stand for that. It's that. If you don't think that the end of this should come by unrelentingly pressuring those people no until they submit, you're in the domination business. If you think that the end of this should come by unrelenting pressure, I mean, I guess fucking weird way of phrasing it. Just trying to make this into some kind of sex thing. I don't know, but I mean, protesting against authoritarianism is literally, I know I've said literally a lot here, but I don't know how else to exaggerate it to the point where it goes in, like, or to hammer it home. That's what authoritarianism is. Unrelentingly pressuring people until they submit. I mean, that's the whole point. All of this Equality and Human Rights Commission stuff, you know, Keir Starmer and other members of the government saying that trans women should be banned from public. They're trying to get us to submit. I mean, you were literally just saying that we're not going to, like, take this line down. We're going to stand up and keep fighting back. It isn't over. And then you're saying, like, oh, the trans people are trying to force us to submit. Submit to what, mate? I just want you to fuck off. I just want you to stop trying to take away our future. I just want you to stop trying to take away our rights. If you just stopped, if you were actually exhausted and you actually just gave up and just said, oh, I'm going to get a new hobby, your life would be exactly the same. And suddenly I'd have so much more time and freedom to just, like, exist. And I really don't know why you are so surprised to discover that feminism's prime directive is resisting male dominance. Again, zero self-awareness. I mean, what's the situation here? We're now having women attacked for having mastectomies from cancer, or for having short hair and being kicked out of women's spaces, often like policemen or security guards who are often aggressive men forcing their way into women's spaces to demand that women prove that they're really women. For what? All of this policing of women's bodies, demanding that they show their papers because their hips aren't wide enough or whatever. Of course feminism is going to fight back against this, and that's why the gender critical movement is very clearly just in line with the far right. It gets clearer and clearer every day, and this is what I think is so ridiculous about this kind of relic of the past that Jane Clare Jones represents. I know most, like everyone, 99% of the people watching this are like, Katie, who the fuck even is this person? I mean, Jane is one of the people I used to argue with on Twitter before she blocked me for asking a question that she didn't have an answer to. Because it was when I was very interested in like the feminist arguments for and against trans rights, and we're still trying to understand them all. And that was in like 2017 or something, when the narrative was feminism versus trans people in the UK. And once I evaluated it enough and investigated it further, I was like, oh, that isn't actually the real position. It's all of like the right-wing newspapers saying this. Like all of these right-wing newspapers, which are consistently anti-feminist all the time, are suddenly pro-feminist when it comes to trans people, and they will say they're supporting women, and then the next article is about how the gender pay gap doesn't exist or should be bigger, or both of those things at the same time. But I think that there was a large part of the gender critical movement which was still trying to argue that like 10 years ago, and was saying, oh, you know, we might have something in common. We might have some hands across the aisle with the right wing, and we happen to both oppose LGBT rights or whatever, but we're actually left-wing feminists. But like that narrative, which was false at the time, but was able to be presented to the public a bit better, that has totally died. Now, the most famous gender critical people on earth are Elon Musk, Donald Trump. Like, they're all saying your arguments. They're the ones it's the guy in America, RFK Jr., who is like saying that vaccines are fake and removing healthcare for millions and millions of people, all on this pseudoscience garbage, is like basically posting gender critical talking points and stuff word for word. It's very clear that the gender critical movement is just an arm of the like global right movement, and we've seen in the last 10 years so many of these like prominent, I'm just left-wing feminist with concerns types, just completely give up on that narrative and become like right-wing political commentators. And the gender critical movement themselves, as soon as the Supreme Court ruling came out, loads of them were like, oh, well, right, we defeated trans people, onto immigrants next. And like, as I mentioned at the start of this section, Jane was kind of pushed to the wayside by the gender critical movement for opposing Kelly J. Keane Minshall, who is very, very brazenly not a feminist, who is like the main influence, or was, again, she's fallen off a bit now too. Yeah, I just feel like this idea that the gender critical movement represents like the underdog fighting back against the oppression of the state and the like men and stuff, when you're controlling all of the most powerful people on earth, all who are men, all who are saying what you want. Just crazy. It's just a complete lack of awareness of reality. And I think this is a situation where she genuinely believes this, the way she writes it. Lots of them just lie. And they'll be like, I just have concerns, or I'm just, I believe in female rights. And then like Caroline Fisk is another one who then wrote an article saying the gender pay gap should be bigger. Like, they know they're lying. They're just using this like hook of progressive sounding language in order to shovel their points in and get people to listen to them. I think Jane really believes this, and it's just kind of like crazy. Yeah, it's really wild. I'm amazed she hasn't blocked this person. Top comment. I'm genuinely curious what you think taking no for an answer would mean. Trans people aren't going to stop existing just because you take offense at them. We could easily stop obsessing about what's in people's pants and let everyone pee in peace. And you could get on with the shit. Like, yeah, exactly. Ridiculous. What an absolute clown of a person. Do they know they're like... Right. I genuinely think that a lot of gender critical people know they're lying. I've had a lot of interactions with them where you will call them out on something and they'll just instantly change their position. Like a very classic example from before the Supreme Court ruling stuff came in, you would say, they would be like, say they're gender critical, and you'd be like, right, so you want to ban trans women from women's spaces. And they'll be like, who's saying that? I didn't say that. Well, I don't want to ban anyone from anything. I just have concerns. And like, okay, then what do you want? What changes the law do you want? Oh, I don't want to change the law at all. I don't. Well, okay. So do you support Sex Matters trying to change the law to ban trans women from women's spaces, or are you going to say you oppose them? I'd be like, oh, why would I have an issue with this? Just common sense. Like, so you do want to ban trans women from women's spaces? And like, of course. And like, so why did you just lie about it for the last half an hour? Like, this isn't just a one-off thing. This is the kind of basic standard gender critical argument position. And then you'll see them doing the exact same thing to someone else a day later. Lots of them know they're lying. And it's the same with like when they say they can always tell. I think some of them do genuinely believe they can always tell who's trans and cis. I think that's quite a common position of like the general public. But if you're a real fucking obsessed freak gender critical person, you have encountered a situation where you didn't know someone was trans. They know it, and you'll see them say it. Things like, oh, and we need a law in order to protect people from the truly deceptive ones who are able to conceal who they really are or something. It's like, so you do believe that you can't tell who is trans and cis. It's just that you lie about it most of the time when it's politically convenient to do so. And again, like their political position, I know a lot of people have no idea how the political spectrum works and what's left wing and right wing and stuff, but a bunch of them do know. And the like Janice Turners and J.K. Rowlings and like Sonia Sodas of the world, they know that what they're writing in these right-wing papers is framed to a right-wing audience, and their right-wing editor is saying, we need to sell this to our audience who is mainly middle-class white people from England with, who own a home kind of thing. They know that. And that's why the way in which they write their articles, you don't get this kind of vibe of like, I'm a feminist activist and what I've seen on the front lines is crazy and I need, I want to talk about this. They always are just like writing it in a way where they're clearly targeting this group of people who don't like feminism. When up until trans rights started being, a major talking point, they hated feminists. But now there's this kind of like little wink, wink, nudge, nudge they can say when they say like female rights, female activist. They're sort of saying, oh, yeah, well, it's just feminists versus trans people. Surely we all support women's rights. We support the suffragettes. But they don't support feminism. They're not feminists. It's not the angle in which they're writing to, and it's not the audience they're writing for. They know they're lying when they're doing that. It's propaganda. You see them doing it. And like Graham Linehan, for example, lies all the time. He just makes things up. He's made up a bunch of stuff about me. Um, there's one guy who claimed that he had found some video of me or something. It was on a Facebook profile of someone who posted about having a daughter and didn't look like me and blah 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 blah. It's like, they know I don't have a daughter. So, and when I confronted them on this, like, you know that's not me. You know it. Like, you know that isn't me. And they'll just be like, well, you know, someone like you deserves this kind of thing anyway. It's very believable for a trans person to be like this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, so you are knowingly lying. You've made a choice to make this up. A bunch of them also claimed that I was a trucker once. That was like a thing for like months, where they would all keep like making comments about driving trucks to me. And like, I've never driven a truck in my life. But the thing is, some of them probably just believe that because they hear it. But the person who first said this, or the little group of them who decided to make that a thing, they know they're lying. Like, genuinely, a lot of gender critical people that know they're lying. And I think that is one of the big differences between the trans rights movement or any feminist movement or any civil rights movement and any oppressor movement, is that lying for them is like almost no consequence. They don't really face any scrutiny in the media. Their movement won't ever like attack them for saying something untrue. None of this really affects them, so there's not really anything at stake, and attention is the biggest currency they have. Whereas lying can cost us a lot, and can be damaging to the people we're fighting rights for, and it can undermine things we do, and getting attention is often really negative. And yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry to disappoint chat there. I am not a trucker, and I have never been a trucker, and I never will be a trucker, and that is a promise to you. I hate driving. I can drive, and I avoid it as much as I can because it is boring and uncomfortable, and everyone on the road is stupid. Yeah, okay, that's a good example. David in chat. Posey Parker / Kelly J. Keane Mitchell. I feel like I have to say her full name because, one, she's got a trillion names and no one knows who the fuck you're talking about. But also, it's like Tommy Robinson. I can't remember what it's. Stephen Yaxley Lennon or whatever it is, something like that. They come up with these like catchy names to like try and appeal to normal people when they're actually, you know, disconnected from reality, super rich weirdos. But anyway, she has been very clear on her channel that she is not a feminist and isn't left-wing and actually opposes feminism. But then in media interviews, they'll be like, feminist Posey Parker or whatever, and she will do nothing to dispel that because it's politically convenient for her to sell that like narrative. And all the gender criticals, they'll be like, oh, we're just feminists with concerns, you know, us and Helen Joyce and Posey Parker. And it's like, both of them have said they're not left-wing or feminists, but you'll say they are, and then they won't disagree because they all know it's politically, or has been until recently, politically useful for them to pretend. So yeah, lots of them know they're lying, and I think lots of them, they have this attitude of like, the greater good of eradicating trans people is so important that any means necessary. Like, it doesn't matter. It's that kind of, who cares if a bunch of gender non-conforming cis women get abused in the toilet? It's worth it if the end goal is eradicating trans people. So it's like, who cares if, you know, who cares if we have to lie? Who cares if we have to make this story up? Who cares if we have to like destroy the reputation of some random trans person? They deserve it anyway. Like, who cares? That is genuinely their attitude. And yeah, I think if you are approaching the gender critical movement, like, and this whole discussion of trans people as if it's like two sides with two strongly held beliefs, like two different religions, and they can't agree because they have two different, like, that is, you're gonna not be able to analyze what is going on, and when you see things happening, it's not going to make sense to you. Because the reality is that, I mean, that isn't a reality. It isn't two like equal and opposing sides. It's a group of people oppressing, trying to remove freedom from other people with nothing at stake who benefit from lying versus people whose lives are on the line. We can get something else in for sure. We haven't covered many topics this time, but that's fine. So I have a backlog of videos. I do want to talk about the consultation before I go. Let's just see what else we got here. Oh, okay, right. I do want to discuss this. Sorry. Let's have some water. How's chat doing? Oh, so it turns out, so I use Premiere Pro to edit my videos. And it has like some enhanced voice setting where it makes it louder and clearer and removes the background noise, and I can't be bothered to tweak all the settings, so I just press go on it. And when I cleared my throat a couple of times on a previous video, it thought I was talking and tried to make it sound like words, and it was really weird. So I need to try and edit that out if I do cough in a video. I'm trying to mute it. Anyway, so as you all know, the EHRC in... Oh, that's a shame. It's blocked me. Okay. As you all know, the EHRC in the UK is doing a consultation. And the consultation is basically, should we ban trans people from public or not? And I am going to go through that on the stream. I think we're going to get Dr. Ruth Pierce on again, and we're going to go through. So if you are stressed by this, you can come and do like a team writing session where we'll all go through it all together. And I'll also release an edited video afterwards with like a shortened version that hopefully will be shareable, that you can give to your friends and family of, you know, guidance on how to fill it in a way that will be useful. So if you're worrying about it, don't worry. We have 6 weeks or 5.5 weeks or whatever. We will do it, and we'll all do it together. That's my position anyway. Unfortunately, I can't see this because the author's hidden it, but that's totally fine. It's just a starting point. Some people on Blue Sky have been discussing boycotting the consultation. And I guess I want to talk about this topic in general. In fact, we can lose this picture because it's not much use. I think this is a real discussion that's worth having. And if you are someone who thinks we should boycott the consultation, I'm not coming for you, and I'm not saying you're an idiot, and I'm not saying I know better at all. And if you're someone who agrees that we should fill in the consultation, don't go for people who disagree. And if you're someone who disagrees, try and have some, like, also do the same. Like, what I think in a time like this is no one knows what the best set of actions is to get trans people's rights. Like, if we were to run a simulation of the universe 1 billion times and make a different decision at every decision point, some of them would get to the point of trans people having human rights faster than others. So there's like an optimal route through this. And no one knows what that is without doing it and looking back and seeing. We cannot know what the best thing to do is. But we can have an idea, and we can look at what's happened in other situations and discuss it with each other. And people are going to come to different conclusions on that. So I really think that when you're having a disagreement with someone over something like this, if you're someone who like has the same position as me, thinks we should fill in this consultation, and I will explain why in a second, and you're talking to someone who doesn't think that, or it's the other way around, please try and just first analyze, is this person on the same side as me? Is this person's strong opinion coming from the position of they want trans people to have rights and they're terrified and they don't know what's best, but they think X is best rather than Y? Because if that's the case, then you need to both give each other space to just be like, this is what I think. You haven't convinced me, so I'm going to carry on thinking the same thing, and I think you're wrong. However, neither of us know. We are just doing our best. And the reality is that some trans people are going to boycott this consultation because they think that's best. And I could be like, oh, that's so annoying because I think we need to all fill it in. Okay. But some people don't think that. And I'm not going to be able to convince them. I might be able to convince some of them. And, I hope I can do in the rest of this section. But the bottom line is they aren't my enemies. They're not, like, I could say, oh, if only we had more people, it might have made more difference. I don't know how many more people we need to fill it in order to make a difference. Maybe it'll make no difference at all anyway. But the enemies, the people fighting against us, are the people doing this fucking consultation, trying to take away our freedom, remove our human rights. And I get that it's frustrating to talk with someone who just doesn't seem to be listening. Like, I saw some discussions about this today in this thread from multiple people where they didn't seem like they were listening to each other, or one of them at least didn't seem like they were listening in the conversation or whatever. And that is frustrating, and it can cause people to get snappy because we're all so stressed at the moment. But just really try and have like a thing in your mind that just constantly reminds you like over and over again, is this person my enemy? Is this person like actively causing harm on a scale that is worth talking about? Like, if it turns out that we simulated the universe a trillion times and filling in the consultation was better, then technically the people who didn't fill it in were slowing down the progress to trans rights or whatever. And equally, if we run the universe simulation, it turns out that boycotting it was better. The people who didn't boycott would be some form of slowdown on that whatever. But they wouldn't be net negative. They're not people who are actively causing harm. They're not people who are your enemies. So just try and remember that. And I'm not referring to anyone in particular when I'm saying this. I saw quite a lot of conversations this and people disagreeing, and I think this is something that we need to discuss. So the pros for boycotting this are the EHRC is like brazenly corrupt. The people leading it absolutely hate trans people. They were like gleefully trying to say that all trans people could be banned from all public spaces. They're still saying that on the radio and stuff. They were put in those positions of power purely because they're gender critical ideologues who have absolutely no grip on reality at all. They do not care. They have like unchecked power. They hate trans people. Like they just want to ban us from things. So obviously this consultation they've created is not in good faith at all. It's like they've been forced to do this consultation. They released some guidance like straight away. They released it at 10 p.m. on a Friday without announcing it, to the shock of everyone, because they hoped they could just sneak it under the radar. And then when it became a news item, they're like, okay, well, we'll have a quick consultation then, 2 weeks, just get it done, because they just wanted to tick the box. And then there was a load of noise about that, so they've conceded, okay, the consultation's going to be 6 weeks. But they've still written a completely bullshit consultation, which we need to complain about. But you could just say, well, okay, well, they're just trying to rubber stamp this. And if you participate in it, one, you're wasting your energy because they're not going to listen to you anyway. And two, maybe they can then say, oh, look, trans people were involved. They were whining about not being involved. Now they've been involved. We're banning them from public and they can't complain. And I hear all of those points. I totally accept that, like, this is not the first one of these fucking consultations we've had to fill in. I've been saying to you all, write to your MP, contact your MP, talk to your boss, talk to all this kind of stuff for weeks now. And it's exhausting. Like, it fills you with dread. You're having to, like, get yourself into the zone to write a letter, which is already tedious enough, even if you're just like, doing a phone call is terrible, even if you're ringing your best friend or something. Just phone calls are grim. But when it's talking about this group that wants to take away your human rights, it's so draining. It saps from your energy and your mental health and stuff. And then I'm saying, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. There's gonna be another one after this. So I can totally understand the argument that it's a big drain for like low positive. It's not like someone is going to write one letter that is so good that it flips the course of history and they've saved the day or anything. That just isn't going to happen. And I totally understand this kind of, they can say, oh, some trans people were involved and we just ignored them all and blah blah blah, whatever. they do want this to be a rubber stamping exercise. They do want to push out guidance saying we should be completely banned from public life. That is their goal. But from the Supreme Court ruling thing, as we've seen in over the last couple of weeks, there's been a huge pushback, not just from trans people but from cis people, to the point where I've heard from quite a lot of different sources from the government that quite a lot of people in the government were shocked at the amount of pushback on this. They were shocked that the EHRC tried to rush out this consultation. They were shocked that it was only going to be for 2 weeks and it just like wasn't standard procedure. And they, like, everyone I'm talking to is saying that their MP is saying, wow, I'm getting so many letters about this in support of trans rights and stuff, and I didn't realise anything about this, didn't know it was an issue. When I went to Parliament and I brought some of this stuff up, the MPs were saying themselves, like, they had been, like, inundated with this stuff. And it's causing the EHRC to be under a lot of pressure. They've had to do a consultation, and now the consultation has had to be extended. We are building pressure, and it is doing stuff. And I'm not saying it's like gonna solve trans rights overnight, or even I can't guarantee that it will stop them taking our rights away. But we've got to do something. We have to fight back, because there's a real chance that we can reverse some of this, or at least stop the worst of it, or maybe stop all of it. And we've got to do something. And that doesn't necessarily mean filling in this consultation, but I don't think we can say the whole system's rigged, so we're not going to do anything. We need protests, like the protests we looked about earlier with where a bunch of trans women turned up and did a topless protest. We've had a bunch of protests. There's been so many different like trans rights protests over the last few weeks, and every now and then one of them breaks through and it makes a difference and people notice it, and then it becomes a worthwhile use of their time. But some of these other protests weren't covered by any media, no one's talking about them, and you could be like, oh, it was a waste of time, why did I even go to this protest? It's because we don't know which ones are the things that are going to be important. But we do know that this consultation is going to be quite important. I think out of all of the things, this is like currently the number one most important priority. I think maybe meeting your MP in person is probably a better use of your time. But this filling in this consultation is going to take like at most an hour. Hopefully much shorter than that. And if we do it together, or you follow a guide or something, then hopefully it's not so much of a burden. They have to review all of these responses. They have to like write a report about all of these responses. And sure, they're going to try and throw them out. They're going to try and ignore them. They're going to try all these things. But all of this stuff becomes public record. And we need it to be there for when we end up, like, all of this stuff is going to end up in the European Court of Human Rights. All of this stuff is going to be litigated loads. All of this stuff is going to go to Parliament so many times over the next decade. And we need things like with the Gender Recognition Act reform. They had 3 consultations on that, and all 3 of them, all of the, like, the majority of all of the different stakeholders, as they call them, the groups involved, the majority of them supported reforming the Gender Recognition Act, and that included feminists, that included like shelters, women's shelters, that included gay rights groups, that included trans groups, obviously. And so when they've got this narrative of, oh, I wasn't supported by feminists, well, that's untrue, because you did 3 separate consultations, and they every time the feminists said they supported it. So even though they ended up rejecting the law because we had, a right-wing government full of idiots, that hasn't gone away. One day we will reform the Gender Recognition Act in some form, and we will keep pushing it until we have equality. And all of this stuff being on record is useful for creating momentum and pushback in Parliament. There will be a lot of politicians who see this, and if this gets like 10,000 responses from gender criticals and 5,000 responses from trans people, there will be some politicians who'll be like, the trans people are opposing this or whatever, but it's harder for them to say. Whereas if we get like, 100,000 responses, suddenly it's like, wow, okay, this is actually a big issue, and more politicians will feel like they need to say something about it, positive and negative. But as we have seen recently, like they just had a debate on, I think, Gender Recognition Act reform again in Parliament. And usually when we see these debates lined up, it's like, okay, the 10 gender critical MP wackos are going to use it to say their conspiracies in Parliament. There'll be pushback from one good MP, and that'll be it. This time, there was like tens of MPs. The majority of them were saying trans positive stuff, and they had improved their language. The arguments they're making have got better. And that's because we're putting so much pressure on, and they're seeing all this stuff, and they're reading reports. People in Parliament, it's not one big monolith where they want to make these coordinated decisions together. They see this stuff. It'll come to their department, and they'll be the department of whatever, and this consultation will touch them in some weird way, and they'll have to read the responses, and they'll be like, wow, okay, I didn't know anything about this. Wow, this is a bigger deal than I thought. So I personally am currently of the position that I think filling in this consultation is something we should all do. And I think boycotting it will just give them more leeway to say, well, not many people opposed it, so this is just good. Like, they want to say that, they want to lie and just say, oh, it's not a big deal. Because they're constantly saying, oh, yeah, we want to ban all trans people from public. Well, also, this doesn't really affect trans people. But if we can say, no, you had a consultation, thousands of people wrote in, and they, the majority of them disagreed with you, the people actually affected by this are saying no, then that is pressure we can apply. Even if the EHRC ignore it, when they write guidance, it then goes to Parliament, and Parliament has to decide on it. And when there's political pressure from it, like, they're going to have to do something. Even if Keir Starmer is transphobic, there are other politicians who disagree with him, and we need to give them ammo. So I am going to do a stream on it. I think I'm going to have Dr. Ruth Pierce again. We did one with together before. I think it was quite good. If you aren't convinced by what I'm saying here, I think you're wrong. But we aren't enemies. And I hope you don't think I'm your enemy. And what I will say is, what you have to do, if you're going to boycott this consultation, is you have to do something. Because we're really in a moment where we have to be doing something. And I want you all to just... It's terrifying, but you need to find something you're good at. And maybe that is talking about it on YouTube like I do. Maybe that is going to a protest and getting your boobs out like Sugar from earlier did. Maybe it's... by the way, that was a joke. I wasn't trying to be derogatory about that. I think that protest was incredibly impactful. But also maybe it's drawing cartoons, and you want to express this in the form of a cartoon about how unjust it is. Maybe you're the kind of person who's really good at organizing things behind the scenes, and you can just introduce a bunch of people to each other. Maybe you're really good at writing letters, and you should help other people fill this consultation in. But you do just have to do something. Whatever it is. You don't have to be brave, you just have to do something. And I think filling in this consultation and writing a letter to your MP are maybe a little intimidating, but they are things you can do, you have the power to do, and I think are worth doing, and apply pressure. We have got more momentum now than we did a few weeks ago. Things are building up. MPs are being shocked by how much momentum we are gaining, and we need to keep it rolling and keep applying the pressure and make it so they feel like if they're going to take our rights away, they know there is huge pressure against it and it is unpopular. So yeah, please do. Pardon me. Do I have anything else to cover? I might end the stream here. Let's see. Let's just quickly have a look at this. I don't know if I'll make this into a whole segment or not, but Keir Starmer might as well be an AI who's been instructed what to do by whoever programmed him. Yeah, I think they got the same rogue employee that Grok had, where he's just started saying racist things now, just like Grok did. Oh, or more racist things. Anyway, let's just quickly have a look at this, because this is from a couple of weeks ago now, and I want to give it some time. So Trans Kids Deserve Better is a protest organization. They're the ones who left a load of coffins outside Wes Streeting's office. And they're the ones who released a bunch of locusts into or whatever, grasshoppers into the LGB Alliance conference. These guys are pretty radical and they are incredibly brave. It's literally just a bunch of trans kids doing some like real protesting stuff. So they went to the NHS HQ in the UK, and covered it in bloody handprints and have said, release the suicide report. So, armed with paintbrushes, spray bottles, and water-activated red face paint, 5 young activists from Trans Kids Deserve Better left bloody handprints on the NHS HQ, with one writing, "Release the trans youth suicide report." You might not know about this. A report has been written by the National Child Mortality Database about improving suicide prevention strategies for trans kids, which is obviously going to recommend supporting them and healthcare. This report was completed March 2024, yet when Good Law Project asked for a copy, they were told that it was being withheld until 2026 due to ongoing conversations with NHS England. This equates to 2 years of trans kids being put through increasingly cruel climate whilst explicitly hiding a resource with information that could save our lives. Invoking the visuals used by ACT UP, the activists wore patches on their backs that featured a trans flag, triangles, and read the words "Silence equals death," among other slogans, including "Release the report, trans kids deserve better." In suppressing this research, the government actively contributes to our deaths. One activist said, "I'm taking part in this action because I'm tired of trans voices being silenced. It makes me sad that the NHS are disrespecting people who have sadly taken their own lives and are no longer with us. They may think this means no one will notice. They are wrong. I want to make a stand for people who can't because they deserve so much better than being forgotten." All activists safely fled the scene. The paint on NHS England will wash away with a wet cloth, unlike the suffering the government has caused to the trans community. As one activist said, "They have blood on their hands, yet they act with ignorance. Now they have blood on their building. Hopefully they'll notice this time." To the NHS and our government, stop playing games with our lives. Release a report. So what I've heard as well, and this is, I guess more speculation, but again, backed up by what Good Law Project is saying, is I've heard that this report shows that the suicide rate has gone up since banning trans healthcare for under 18s. I know from talking to some of the parents of trans people, some of their children who committed suicide, who were trans, weren't included even in the statistics, because of various excuses they have to not include them in the statistics. So there's definitely some attempt here to hide the scale of what's happening. The fact that they can ban healthcare for people based on pseudoscience and then hide the report which might show that it's harmful, I mean, something's going on here. So yeah, this is a disgrace. I don't know how. I mean, this does sound like a conspiracy theory. I guess it is. I do think that there are people who do not want to talk about how removing trans healthcare causes harm to trans people because they want to do it without having to face any consequences or look at any evidence. I don't know to what extent this is a cover-up. I just don't know. But what I do know is that they should release this report and at least put the data out there and explain how they've come to those conclusions. Wow, there's loads of photos here. Can we just scroll through them? We can. This stuff's brave, and it's stuff that people can do, and obviously I never would recommend washable graffiti. When there was big trans rights protests for the Supreme Court ruling, someone wrote in chalk on a statue something, trans rights or whatever. And the news was all like, "Oh, trans people deface statue." If you go and like smash a load of windows or something, then you can arguably make the argument that people are causing real damage. The fact that smashing a window is pales in significance to a child killing themselves because of depression, because they had healthcare taken away from them. I think it's completely pearl clutching, hand wringing nonsense to suggest those two things are the same and try and make that the deal. But when they are using water soluble paint or chalk, it's a fucking joke. Like, what are you talking? Who gives a fucking shit if someone writes on a statue with chalk? Like, what are you talking about? You're just trying to hide from what the protest is saying because you don't have a response to what they're actually saying. That is why. It's a pretty good image there of Wellington House with red handprints on it. I hope they got the message. But yeah, anyway, I think trans kids deserve better are seem to have come up with some good stuff anyway. But yeah, right, I'm going to call it here now, everyone. Sorry that we lost the first half an hour to tech issues. I hope that you thought it was a good episode. I might try and get more guests on, obviously without the tech issues. Let me know if you thought having a guest was good or not. Obviously our guest was great, but I mean, do you like that as a format of show? And yeah, I just keep feedback coming. I'm not saying just constantly send me praise, but if you're like, oh, here's an idea I saw on another channel where they're doing something like this, or this thing you tried didn't really work, but this other thing you do works better, or whatever. Like, I really appreciate that kind of thing because, like I was just saying earlier, I don't know what the best thing to do is. And obviously I'm not good at the tech side, despite having a degree in engineering. But I at least can talk to the camera. That's something. And maybe I can make more of a difference with a slight improvement in some way. And if you've got an opinion, I do want to hear it. Not just, oh, comment for the algorithm. You can, that's great. Thank you, that's useful. But you can also send me a DM on Blue Sky or whatever and just say, I've had an idea of how your thing could be better. I would appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And I will see you same time next week, 8 p.m. UK time, Wednesday, with Zero.